I guess if you could share briefly the path that led you to Freddy's.
Wow, it's an amazing path actually because I've been in the industry for 50 years, which is hard to believe. It's hard to believe I'm 65. Honestly, I still haven't figured that out yet. But
Amen.
we, I moved to Wichita, Kansas from Washington D.C. in 1990, and Wichita is the smallest town I've ever lived in. And I committed to my wife 2 years, and was running a company here. And a few years in, I go, I got the entrepreneurship bug again, which I've had before, and not successfully, by the way. Had some avenues that I've written checks for to get out of, but it happens anyway. So I became partners with a gentleman named Bill Simon, and Bill and I opened up Timberline Steakhouse and Grill, and we ended up having six at one time. We were having a blast, and one day his brother, who was running some Paneras, came in and said, "Hey, I miss frozen custard. I go to Lake of the Ozarks. It'd be great to have frozen custard in Wichita." And I go, "All right, let me see." And I go, "You know what? I grew up in St. Louis. I grew up on Ted Drew's and Steak and Shake." And I go, "Let's do one with burgers, steak burgers, and Chicago dogs, and have fun." So that's what got the first one open. Never with the intention of opening a second location. Everybody goes, "Oh, come on, that's ridiculous." Nah, it was one.
Well, what I would ask is, because you said something that was very interesting, and I think a lot of people listening would be scratching their head. You were like, we opened the steakhouse and then we had six of them and we were having a great time. Generally said no restaurateur ever, right? Um, the industry is difficult. The industry at scale is
Yes,
equally as difficult in different ways. So if you were having a great time, either I would assume that you legitimately were and you figured something out, or that you
yes.
define a great time very differently than everyone else
You
listening.
know what? The great time, when I look at the rewards in this industry, for me, it's been able to help other people grow to their potential.
Sure.
In our industry, there's a lot of people, different skill sets walking in that have been very, very successful. And give me someone with the right attitude. And I still look back at the days and the people, even through Freddy's, that we've helped make their lives and their families and honestly their incomes substantial. And that's really what it's all about. I still think one of the best days in my career was a day after we sold Freddy's, and my partners and I were giving deal checks to the key players in our business, and significant.
Yeah.
And I'm in the office and with a young lady, and she's crying. And my wife walks in the office, and we have glass on the wall so she can see it. She walks in and goes, "What did you say to her?" I go, "Here, I just told her what her deal bonus was, and she'll be able to pay off her house, so it's okay." But you talk about reward. That's really the reward. When you don't worry about yourself and you worry about everybody else, you win.
you know, yes. Yes. But like you've been on both sides of it, right? So like you've had businesses that have not succeeded, like all of us. And then you have this business that succeeds. And I've got to believe that there are a couple of big unlocks there, right? Like I would assume, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that what you mastered in the steakhouse going from one to six was the art of delegation, which is probably what gave you
Very true.
the platform to build Freddy Steak Burgers into what it was, right? Because I am certain that when you opened the first one, you probably weren't working the fry station, right?
No, I was on buns. I'm kidding. Probably was too tough for me. No, you're right. It's really understanding that it really truly is all about people, and having
Mhm.
the right people working with you, and with you, not for you, and with the same, no confusing mission. And the mission is clear.
Yeah.
What we're here to do. We're here to take care of our guests, our team members, and by the way, profit is not a dirty word. So putting all those components together, and having fun with that was fun. Timberlines were great until 2008, by the way. The recession wasn't
Sure.
very good for casual dining steakhouses. It was good for Freddy's.
Well, and let's talk about Freddie. So looking at like your past entrepreneurial ventures into the steakhouse, into Freddy's. Um, Product aside, because I think we can all agree, like great restaurants with great food and great beverage go out of business every single day.
Yes.
Um, how did you set up that business for success? The business, right? Uh, how did you set it up for success out the gate so that you knew that it would succeed?
Well, I'm a huge believer in general managers having operating partner on their business card. And we set up it was actually a three-tier bonus system that they were rewarded monthly by as if they were an owner and on a 5-year plan. When you have a GM, when your GM truly understands how to operate like an entrepreneur, you're going to win. And they're not worried about the short term bonus, they're worried about the long term sales and profitability and long term success of the restaurant. And when you get that communicated well and they believe in it, you're going to win because you can't be everywhere every day. We sold Freddy's with 400 locations,
Yeah.
and everybody goes, 400? How did you manage that? Well, let me tell you, I didn't. We got the best people we could to make the best decisions possible and move forward in the best interest of the organization and themselves.
Let's talk about that. So the best people, right? Like once we're at scale, it's what does Steve Jobs say, right? Like it's so easy to connect the dots looking backwards, right? It's the faith that it takes to look forward and believe that those dots are going to connect.
Yes.
Um, I would suspect that there was a time either at the steakhouse or at Freddy's where you make the first hire, right? The first critical hire, that gentleman or lady that arguably you can't afford when you hire them, right? But what you're trying to do is acquire talent as opposed to grooming it. Did that hire happen in the business? And if so,
Absolutely.
can you
When we opened
talk
up
to
the
me about it?
first Timberline Steakhouse, we had, of the four other managers that we had, fast casual dining steakhouse, $25 check average back then, started in 97. Um, we had the right people. We had people that I already knew were great managers, great leaders, had good vision, ethics, morals, all the components that you want in a leader. And I still remember 2 weeks after we were open, I walked outside with one of the gentlemen that had left a great job to come, with a chance and roll the dice, right? And we're outside the restaurant, and there's probably 50 people outside waiting for tables. I go, pretty cool, huh? Yeah, and it worked out great for so many people.
I want to talk about positioning because I think that it's of values. Um, what I like about Freddy's custard and steak burgers is I like it from a marketing perspective. I like the positioning around it. I think that the question that all founders have to ask is like, does the world need another burger joint? And candidly, Scott, most times, probably not.
Yes,
Probably not. One of the things that I think you did really well out the gate is like you articulated like a uniqueness, right? It was a very unique value proposition in the market for Wichita, but also nationally. And so I would assume that that came with great intention, right? That was baked into the design.
it was. So I love your question. And I had so many friends going, let's see, you're leaving this company or you've got this other thing that's working great and you're going to do what? Burgers and
Right.
fries? Oh, yeah, that's original, dude. So I love the question and it is so true. But, you know, there's a term we use with Freddy's and now with Mocha's, by the way, with Mocha's Coffee and Eatery, but it's the Freddy's way to do it the right way. We all know. Here's my big question for you today, Josh. Which is healthier for you, an apple or French fries?
An apple.
Well, of course. But if I'm going to give you French fries and they're coming right out of the fryer, perfectly seasoned and hot, how happy are you going to be?
Much happier than if I was eating an apple,
And
Scott.
there we go. And therein lies this. We just told the whole secret to everyone, right? And
Right?
those components of doing things the Freddy's way, of cooking burgers to order. We all know we shouldn't have burgers 7 days a week. 2 days a week, okay. And fries every day. But when you want fries, you want them fresh and hot. And when you want ice cream, and frozen custard is a premium ice cream, you want the best of the best. I get in so many conversations with people that buy cheaper ice cream, and you could taste the mealiness, the gum on your tongue. And then I give them frozen custard, and they go, "Damn it, you've ruined me for life." And it's true. There's a quality difference, And we should all enjoy the things that make us happy in moderation. And I think Freddie's hits that right on the head.
I know you mentioned that you didn't set out to build a national brand, but ultimately you did. And so, if you didn't set out to, which leads me to believe that you don't know anything about building a national brand,
That's a good
um,
statement. Yes.
right? For sure. Like, how could you if you hadn't done it before? Even if you had read a few books on it, Scott, like understanding the thing and doing the thing are two very different things. And so understanding that that's the case. How did you set yourself up for success when you saw the opportunity? Like, who did you put into place? Like, what was your approach to making sure? Because we've seen it so many times, right? Like, it goes from 1 to 5 to 50 to 5 to none.
Just seen a few, just read about a few of those today, actually.
For
But,
sure.
but you know what? It's still, when we started franchising, we were very selective in our franchise picks, and we're doing the same with Mochas. Someone has to have the money. Someone has to have a territory you both mutually agree upon. Have to have the operational expertise or the ability to hire it. And if you're going to hire that person, make them a partner. Those are three key. But the most important is the no jerk rule. And, nobody wants to go to work and work with someone who's a jerk. And there were many times, I remember one in particular where my partner Randy and I were walking down the hall doing a discovery day for Freddy's. And we walked away from the room and we look at each other and go, no way. These people had all the money in the world. They were not going to become a Freddy's franchisee. So it's as important to say no to people that could help grow your brand as it is to say yes.
As it relates to the no jerk rule, so like the roles evolve. You go from serving customers that want burgers to serving franchisees that want a business in a box. And spoiler alert to everyone except for franchisees listening, there's no such thing as a business in a box, right? Like these things are evolving and changing, right? It would be like getting a perfect child in a box. There's no such thing by nature. They're unruly, and you're subject to market changes, seasonality, economic issues. Um, so how do you? I understand like the no jerk rule, um, but it's also an expectations game. And so, how did you have to evolve as a leader to begin managing the relationship and the expectations of franchisees versus somebody that just wants a burger for $12?
Well, you know what? I think first of all, I think people when they sign into your podcast, I think they do it because you're giving them the magic wand on how it works, right? You have that, right? I'm kidding. The reality is there's no magic wand, but so you've got to have the product. We felt Freddy's was the right product. We feel Mocha's is the right product to grow, also, and the difference is that we were able to build relationships and make sure the people that are franchisees are passionate about the brand. If you came in and wanted to do Freddy's and you'd never been to a Freddy's, I don't know why we're talking. But
Yeah.
if you came in, oh man, I was there. I had a double bacon cheeseburger and it was amazing. And those fries and the fry sauce, and I get a turtle sundae, or my favorite concrete is, bananas and whatever. Um, the passion you could tell. You want somebody has to be passionate about the brand. If they're not excited about the brand and they're just looking at the business as a business without the passion component, you're not going to win.
I would assume that if your entrepreneurial journey was anything like mine, that it went from a really wide scope of work, right, to progressively narrowing over time to I really only do the things that I was born to do, right? That I have natural talent and abilities to, which ultimately pair well with my interest. That I try and stay in my superpowers. Not to say that I don't have to stretch from time to time, but that's not what's best for me. That's not what's best for the business. What are your superpowers, and where do you think you add the most value to a business?
You know, it's a great question. And I'm a pretty humble guy in general. But the important thing is that building the relationships, whether it's with I had 9 direct reports when I was running Freddy's. Every one of the least tenured was 10 years. So building the relationship with them, building the relationships. We sold Freddy's 5 years ago. I talked to one of the franchisees a couple days ago. Just he called to check in. I still stay in touch. I'm the happy birthday guy by text and whatever, um, because it's important. I care about these people. I truly, genuinely care about their success and how they're doing. And I think it comes out. And when you do that as a leader and as a franchisor, when you're not greedy, you're not taking a look at something and going, hey, I'm just trying to make as much money as I can. If you don't worry about that, you're going to win. If you worry about that, and oh, I can get this and this, and I'm going to make, we never made back end dollars on anything when we ran Freddy's. Why? Because when we chose a piece of equipment or a food, we wanted 100% transparency that this is what is best for the brand. It's not because we're going to make $500 by buying this piece of equipment. And I'm a big believer that that is critical. The transparency is critical.
I think something else that's probably critical is accountability. And so, I don't think you grew to 400 locations without slaying a bunch of people along the way. And not because they were bad people, even though maybe that was the case, but because it's the wrong butt in the wrong seat. I have a coach because I think we should all have coaches. And one of the hardest conversations I ever had with my coach was she told me, she goes, your ability to succeed is directly tied to your ability to have difficult conversations.
Yes.
Um, and it is, I think it's the hardest thing for us to learn as leaders. And so I would ask you, as you grew this business, as you evolved as a leader, what is your approach to accountability? What is your approach to having difficult
There's no
conversations?
second, 100%. Accountability is critical. And you talk about, you have somebody that's not working out. It's not personal. And there's nothing wrong with having the conversation that, I think long term, what's best for you is to separate from this organization. And at the end of it, you're shaking their hand and wishing them well. It's not a personal deal. It's just the wrong fit. And
Go
but you
ahead.
have to have that conversation. You can't pretend like someone's working. Look, we all have our faults. I have my faults. Um, I understood the people that I worked with, what their opportunities where they lied, and helped them overcome those, and gave them skills and coaching and everything to help. And that's what it's all about. You got to take what you have, and if you don't have the right people sitting in the room, or I love the example of, if your boat goes down and you have five people that are going to be on the rowboat, who do you want, right? And it's critical to be able to think of those and have the right people with you. You're not going to win without it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. One of the big paradigm shifts for me was, when you have someone that's floundering in a role, right? And you're doing your best to try and turn it around, but it's just the wrong butt in the wrong seat.
Yes.
Um, you know, it always came from like an internal place, like for me. And the paradigm shift was they know they're floundering. Most people aren't idiots, Scott. And so like this person is in a job that they're not inclined to perform well in, but there is something that they are inclined. Like your worst employee is someone else's best employee, right?
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
but you've got to release them to find that. And the idea that I had, which was so foolish, which was that they didn't know that they were floundering when they most certainly did, and probably
Yes.
experienced the same level of frustration that I did. Um,
And believe me, here's the
that
other
to
thing,
me was
Josh.
revelatory.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but the you think they're taking that home with them.
For
It's not
sure.
good for their personal life either. The component is someone has to be happy with what they do and everything along with that. And it's critical. If you're not happy at work, you don't think that's affecting you when you're going home to your significant other? It is. And your kids? It is.
So we talked before the show, and I gave you my background, and I told you that I owned and operated multiple concepts and multiple tiers of dining, and I would argue I was good at it. Probably more because of my predilections and talents in marketing than my talents as a restaurateur. Um, Having said that, I would say what made me a best in class restaurateur was when I began coaching and consulting for concepts, right? And I've done it for hundreds of concepts globally.
Yes.
And what you see when you work with a sample size that large, and you're able to zoom out, is that the path to success in this industry is is simple. It's almost elegant. It's not easy, nothing easy about it, even on the easiest day. But it is simple and it's elegant. And I would ask you, walking away from Freddy's, did you feel like you had a blueprint? Like, oh, this is how you do it.
I think that everyone associated in leadership at Freddy's learned a lot on long-term vision. You look at different companies, and anybody can take any company and make a lot more money in the next 90 days, and then you're going to fail. I think the vision that we had as leaders, and Bill, Randy, and I, was that we're in this for the long haul. We're going to make decisions that are not for today, tomorrow, next month, or next year. We're making decisions that we think are for the life of the business, and I think that's the most critical component. Um, you can save here, save here, all the little stuff. As long as you're focused on really doing it the Freddy's way, you're going to win.
You know, you, you've mentioned the Freddy's way a couple of different times. And I think it's worth calling out because one of the things that changed everything for me in my business was when I began to externalize the needs of the business, the processes within the business. Instead of saying, hey, can you do me a favor and do this? I started saying, we don't do things like this. We do things like this. And in doing so, the business takes on a life of its own. It informs the culture of the business.
Yes.
Talk to me about the evolution of the Freddy's way, how it came to be.
It came to be actually by hiring a consultant, and they helped us with that. But the main thing is keep the main thing the main thing. If you go to Freddy's and we give you great hospitality and a clean environment, and your burger steams when you take a bite, which they do, and your fries are hot when they come out, which they are, you're coming back.
For
And
sure.
and and we have the right managers that are being rewarded the right way. It was just that the Freddy's way is really looking at everything from the long term perspective of what is right. If you were feeding your mom and dad and they were coming into your restaurant, how would you do it? That's the Freddy's way. Mom and dad, you're coming in for a burger and fries or a patty melt. How do you want it? Patty melt, you want the rye bread crisp, Swiss cheese, caramelized onions, fresh and hot, and your fries are coming with it. And afterwards, you have a nice treat, and you're going to walk away going, "Wow!" And Freddy's hit a very interesting niche, above the fast food, but below the Red Robins of the world. Although focus groups compared us to Red Robin, and that's a good thing. And we were able to hit that niche right in between that somebody wanted a little more than they were getting from fast food, and fast casual cook to order seemed to be the right place to hang out.
I think you bring up a great point, and I think that it's worth calling out. So this is a conversation I have with my clients all the time. I tell them, I was like, they come into your place, they order a sandwich, they eat the sandwich, and they leave. You lost. Now you're competing with every other sandwich place
Yep.
on the planet. I don't think that Freddy's sells burgers. I think that Freddy's sells burgers, fries, and custard. And if someone comes in and they fail to get all three, they have not had the full experience. And so we can talk as restaurateurs about the per
Yes.
customer average spend and how it lifts and all of that. But from an experiential standpoint, like we've got to advocate for our guests to get the whole experience because otherwise you're competing with every other burger joint in town.
Well, the experience component you bring up is so critical. There's a reason that when you're at a Freddy's inside, you can see the burgers being cooked. Why? Because they're being cooked for you. You can see the fryer, but not too much of it. Kind of critical. But you could see the path that all your food is being made for you. When you go to most restaurants and you see them pull a pre-cooked burger out of a warmer or whatever, you go, "Oh, that's going to be really mediocre." And we were able to take it to the next level and just do it the right way. And the right way is fresh. I was in Freddy's the other day and had a double cheese. I like grilled jalapenos on my burger. I like spicy. And it was great. I took a bite, steam came out, fries were hot, team was great. It's all about you said burgers, fries, and custard need to add experience, which you said, and the entertainment value component of being at a place that you want to be.
What did you see, Scott? You went into that place. You had a burger. It was delicious. The team was great. What did you see that was wrong?
I don't talk about it.
But you
Josh,
did, right? Like you
100%.
did.
But I'm going to be pickier than most.
For sure.
It's kind of funny. My reputation for my walkthroughs in restaurants was a lot better than my actual walkthroughs in restaurants, and that's okay. But do I notice every little thing that should be a little different, a little cleaner, a little better? Of course, but we're all going to do that. And if we don't do that, we don't have our eyes open.
And so how does that work? So, right, you walked in as a former founder. Maybe they knew who you were. Maybe you were just the guy that ordered a burger. Um, do you report it? What is worth reporting?
Ah,
Like, is it, or you just internalized it and said, you know what? They use that coaster to level the table instead of a wobble wedge. I'm gonna let it go.
yeah.
How do you determine like what is worth bringing up and what isn't? What is in
So
service of the business and what
yeah,
isn't?
I'm still friends with leadership in Freddy's, and
Sure.
the COO is a good friend. And when I see something, I'll call it significant, I text him. I'm never going to say anything in a restaurant. That's not my job. Um, but if it's something that he needs to be aware of to help him do a better job, maybe it goes high. It probably is on his list already, but maybe it moves up a little bit. I think that's kind of as far as I can take it. What I like to say is they gave me a really big check for them to make the decisions, and which is great, and it's fun to watch Freddy's grow and the success for all the people at Freddy's.
Let's talk about mochas.
Yes.
So, the idea here is that there's a second mountain, right? So now you're not working for money, right? I'm sure you're compensated, but you're good, Scott. Um, and so that being the case, what inspired you to build another brand?
Well, Jason Ingermanson, who started Mocha's 20 years ago, um, has the right passion, direction, and focus to do things, let's call it the Mocha's way, to do things the right way, whether it's food or coffee. Um, it's kind of funny. When I took over Mocha's, I was not a huge coffee person. I am now. I've learned so much. Jason sent me to Arizona to watch our coffee being roasted and really learning about the brand. And Jason's focused on doing it the right way. And if he wasn't, look, you're correct. I don't need money now. This is for passion, and I love the industry, and help him take a brand and redo prototypes and come up with ideas to make it, still as a franchisor, we need to be the best return on investment for a potential franchisee. No one's going and buying a business for fun. You're buying
Right.
it, you know, you want to enjoy it and have passion for the business, but you also need to make money and have a return for investors. And Jason he's the largest Freddy's franchisee with almost 90 Freddy's and Salina Country Club and a couple other projects that he does. So I was able to help focus a little bit more directly on on Mocha's for a while, and help him out with that. And now he's taking it back over. So it's great. It's going to be fun to watch it grow. We have our first franchise location, which will start construction next month in Kansas City. Great franchisee, Christian Coleman, wonderful individual that's passionate about the brand, inquisitive, just a great person. We've become personal friends. Um, Although he's better at golf than me, but he is 30 years younger. Um, but the right person that's going to help lead the brand, taking it forward. We have the right people in place.
You think about when you started Freddy's, right? And then in the way that the world looked then versus the way the world looked now. And, we're watching this massive contraction in the industry, right? You're seeing venerated independent restaurants closing right and left. You're seeing massive franchisees close large numbers of units in specific metros. Um, how has your perspective on the industry changed in recent years?
You know, your comment is spot on. A little scary because the industry has changed. You look at building a restaurant today versus 5 years ago, and you're going to spend
Sure.
25 to 35% more just to get going. And you don't necessarily have the price elasticity to raise prices to compensate for that. So the smart leaders are the ones that are going to be very successful and grow, and the ones that have their head in the sand will not. Um, Same general attitude towards everything in the industry. It's I was talking. I have a daughter who lives in one in New York and one in DC, and DC's been hit hard. You talk about all the government layoffs and all the other components going on in DC and the volatility, and a lot of independent restaurants have closed in DC. And we were talking about this morning, and it's kind of scary. I think it's important for leadership to take a deep breath and truly assess what is going on, what happened, what is going to happen, and what we think is going to happen in the, let's call it, the 3 to 5 year window. And you have to look that far. We've never seen volatility in our government like we have today. And it scares a lot of people. It doesn't make you want to rush out and spend money. And we know that. So as a restaurateur, we need to be the best option, the best. I don't want to say, no, let's call it value. It has to be the best value by segment. If you're going out fine dining, forget about what you spend. If you're delivering, you're going to win. And same thing for fast casual. Mocha, same thing. When I go in, I'm an Americano guy. I'm addicted. It's a cleaner taste, I think, than brewed coffee. And when I go in and get an Americano, I want it right. And there's people appreciate that.
What did you learn in the segment? Right. So you've got lunch and dinner with Freddy's, right? Primarily dinner, I would assume. And now you're in like early morning, you're in breakfast, you're in coffee. Um, there's this all day cafe energy that Mocha's has. Maybe the same customer, but certainly it fits into people's lives differently. It's a different use case.
It is.
Um,
And what's really interesting is that when you open a Freddy's, you go gangbusters at the beginning. People are always willing to try another burger and on and custard and the whole bit. Mocha's is a little different. When you think about where people drink their coffee, people have been in the same habit, some people for 20 years.
sure.
Yet we're coming in and we're going, hey, we're going to change your habit. So it's not the crazy openings like I was used to. They're solid. And then we watch as people learn our concept and our freshly made food, um, and really premium ingredients. I mean, we do it right, and understand the premium coffee products, and we win them over, and all of a sudden you've got a regular. So it's a different build. It's a start and then a growth. Freddy's is start high, go down, and then go back up, and so that totally different.
One of the other things I think about, so again, I think for me, it's the benefit of working with so many different brands across so many different regions and demos. I look at burgers and I see burgers and pizza and fried chicken. Like they're all the same to me, right? And they're all the same because, one of the unique things I think about that category that most people would be just surprised to know is I don't think there's any price sensitivity as it relates to that. And the reason is like nobody gets a burger because they're trying to make great life choices. Right? Like a burger, like you get the burger that you want when you want a burger,
Yes.
and price I don't think really plays a role. It might play a role in terms of frequency, but when you have made the buying decision to go out, the burger that you get is the burger that you want. And so the reason that I bring that up is I see coffee differently, right? I see coffee is it's more about utility, right? Than almost anything else. And you want that great cup of coffee. But in my mind, in my experience with my clients, what I see is I see um, less price elasticity, right? And that it is a tougher road to acquire and maintain the customer because people don't dream about coffee at night the way that they dream about burgers at night. Nobody has a hard day and goes, I'm going to treat myself to an Americano. What they say is, I'm going to get 4 extra patties on that Freddy's burger and I'm going to drown in it.
I don't know. I think coffee. There is a group out there that is passionate about the quality of the product. That's who we're going for. We're not going for the utilitarian person that's going in to McDonald's and getting a 99-cent coffee. And I think that's an important differentiation. We have an environment that you'd be comfortable. I have 90% of my meetings are at one of the Mochas in Wichita, Kansas.
Uh-huh.
And because the environment, the ambiance is great for a meeting. Everybody has what they want. Somebody wants breakfast, it's there. If they just want coffee, it's there. My wife's there twice a week having lunch with a friend, not because we're part of the organization. We pay full price. It's great.
Yeah.
She's there because that's her choice. So we have to work hard to be the choice of what our guests want. The value component, I loved your comment on you don't change what burger you get, you change your frequency. That's very true. And but coffee is a different frequency thing. People that go out for coffee, my brother goes out for coffee 7 days a week.
Sure.
It's like I go, Barry, you have a coffee machine at home. You don't know how to make your own. Buy a good coffee machine. No, that's his gig. And there's a lot of people like that. We have somebody that we work with that goes to Mocha's every day. And one thing to remember, over 50% of the drinks are not coffee.
Right.
That's all the refreshers and things like that. And this person goes in and gets green apple refresher, a large, like $8 a day, every day of the week. So you do have those people that this is their brand, this is their product, this is what they want, and the frequency and repetition is outstanding. More of those is better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Something I want to touch on with you because I think in the coffee segment, I think it's interesting. I would argue that by and large in the restaurant industry, this is the only industry that exists on the planet where most folks will tell you, I'm not willing to pay the cost to acquire a new customer. I'm not like, I don't want to do that. Whereas in almost every other industry, you understand that there's a cost to acquire a new customer. I
Yes.
would argue that most of Mocha's clients are probably stolen from other concepts, right? That it's not right. You guys aren't just inundated with a bunch of first time coffee drinkers.
Yeah.
Um, what is your strategy to lure people in?
Well, you've got to get trial.
For
So
sure.
it's important to be good community members, to be out in the community and sponsoring and promoting and letting people know what your brand is. That's critical. Once we get trial, we win, but we have to get them in the door, hopefully in the door versus drive through. I mean, it's a totally
Sure.
different experience. Over 50% of our guests are going through the drive through, but we want them to come in and see the quality, the way we build the restaurant, the way we execute, the management that we have, the team members that care about everyone and really are there to do a great job. We want our guests to feel that energy and passion.
I don't know if they're successful people. I think that they're successful behaviors
Hmm,
that anyone could adopt and
good
internalize.
point.
And if they do
Yeah.
it with focus and consistency, we end up in a good place. And so I would ask you, like, what should we steal from you? When you look at your life and your career, what are the tactics, the tools, the strategies that have served you well that we could internalize and we could use to benefit ourselves?
I think be humble. I think worry about others more than you worry about yourself. And that comes at a price at times, but it does work long term. And when people, I didn't run 400 Freddies. I don't run the four Mochas we have open, right? We have general managers and team. And when I walk in, I don't want, oh, darn it, Scott's here. I hate it. I want them to go, hey, cool, Scott, good to see you. I go, hey, how's your kids? And I know you weren't feeling well last, whatever. It's a genuine caring about people and genuinely caring about their personal success, whether it's with our brand or not, by the way. Uh, as I've met with people that have left to help them, it doesn't matter. If you're here to help others win and be successful and have great lives, and you're going to be benefited from that.